So, ladies and gentlemen, the Biden administration has basically thrown the flag and said, hey, they're waving the towel in the corner, has totally surrendered our southern border, and is now just letting people walk into the country under the promise that, don't worry, we entered the country illegally, but we will call ICE later and arrange an appointment to what? Acknowledge we entered the country illegally? It's like, what, the honor system now?
What?
What could possibly go wrong?
Go wrong, yeah.
I don't know. I've been asking all weekend, too, to friends of mine who want to debate on this issue. I said, what other laws can we ignore now that liberals have forfeited the southern border? And the Biden administration is now telling people entering the country illegally, don't worry, come in illegally, we'll let you go, no paperwork, we'll fingerprint you, that's it. And then later on, just reach out to us whenever you get to it, and we'll take care of the rest. What other laws are we allowed to just completely discard? What other law? Serious question to the liberals who listen to the show. Can we ignore Obamacare? What about the tax hikes that are coming? What about taxes now? Can we ignore public school taxation and just take our money out of the local tax structure and send our kid to a charter school? What else? Are there any government regulations and red tape? Can you list the ones we're allowed to ignore? Like we're allowed to ignore, apparently, immigration laws at the southern border? I'd appreciate some guidance on that, libs. Whatever you can provide for us about what laws are optional, I'd love to hear it. Now, debunking silly, stupid liberal myths, because there are a lot of them about the southern border. I heard Mayorkas, the DHS Secretary Mayorkas, and I'll get this video in a second. He was on with Chris Wallace on Fox News Sunday. They're trying to flip the script on the narrative because the Biden administration, makes no mistake, realizes this story is getting out of hand. And even some, not all, but some mainstream Democrats are starting to say, hey, folks, we've got a serious problem at our border here. Someone's got to address this. But one of the things I heard Mayorkas, the DHS Secretary, say this weekend, implying that there was some kind of a legal right for people to enter the United States illegally at the southern border. And I thought to myself, do these guys do any homework before they get on the air? Or they lie is just a matter of course. Folks, the laws are different at the border. You are not, listen to me, liberals, horse blinders on, okay? Because I know this stuff is hard for you. You are not entitled to the entire portfolio, not even close to the entire portfolio of constitutional rights at our borders. Did you know that? Of course you didn't. You don't actually do any homework. So Mayorkas' implication, again, I'll get to the video in a second, that somehow you're entitled to the same rights as citizens of the United States on our border is just wrong. Here's just one of them I saw at this law.hustia.com. Border searches. You know, we have this thing called the Fourth Amendment. Well, if everyone around the world got constitutional rights regardless of your status, then clearly at the border, you could stop at the border entering from Mexico or Canada, right? You have Fourth Amendment protections, right? If they apply everywhere. And you could just say, no searches on my car. I want to see a warrant.
Yeah.
Makes sense, right? Well, that's not exactly how it works. Searches made at the border pursuant to the longstanding right of the sovereign to protect itself by stopping and examining persons and property crossing into the country are reasonable simply by the virtue of the fact that they occur at the border and should by now require no extended demonstration. Authorized by the first Congress, the customs searches in these circumstances require no warrant, no probable cause, not even the showing of some degree of suspicion that accompanies even investigatory steps. You know, libs, again, if you do a little bit of homework, you would find out we don't owe people nearly anything at the southern border other than some degree of, you know, treating people. So no reason to treat people terribly, of course. But they're not entitled to any of those constitutional protections, but most of them. That Boumediene decisions created some opaqueness about things like habeas corpus, bring forth the body, arraignments and things like that. Remember the Gitmo case, Boumediene? But no, you don't get constitutional rights at the border because you show up and claim them. That's not the way a country works. Hey, I'm here. Are you here legally? No, but I have all these constitutional rights. You do? Are you a taxpayer? No. Are you a citizen? No. Are you even entering the country through the legal process? I'm not doing that either. No, you don't get those constitutional protections. And I'll ask again. Now that the DHS secretary and others are implying that we owe the entire world some degree of legal protections, we don't under our Constitution. And now that we're letting people into the country under the what? The promise system? I promise I'm going to report to ICE at a later date. What's the point of legal immigration? What's the point?
Amen, brother. Yeah.
I don't get why bother? What's the point? Why bother? There's no point. Why enter the country legally? Just walk in. I'll be back later. Pinky promise. Now, here's a video I now teased for the last 7 minutes or so. This is a DHS Secretary Mayorkas on with Christopher Wallace this weekend on Fox News. And he's asked a simple question about the border. Hey, why aren't the press allowed to see what's going on at the border? Well, I just told you they're not allowed to see what's going on because if the press pictures get out about how bad it is at the border, it'll be compared to the Trump administration. And any sane person will be like, my gosh, it was a lot better under Trump. But the press can't say that because they've told you for the last few years that Trump's a racist, of course. Here's the video. Here's Mayorkas. And I want you to watch him flip the script, listen carefully, and try to make this about COVID, which is totally, completely a look, shiny red ball, squirrel moment. Check this out.
Why has the Biden administration refused to allow reporters to see for themselves and to record what the conditions are under which these minors are being housed? Why, in fact, did you, when you went to the border on Friday and led a congressional delegation, why did you refuse to allow reporters to see the conditions under which these minors are being held?
Two things, Chris, if I may. Number one, let's not forget that we're in the midst of a pandemic, and we are focused on our operations, executing our operations in a crowded Border Patrol facility where hundreds of vulnerable migrant children are located, number one. And number two, we're working on providing footage so that the American public can see the Border Patrol stations. And I would encourage you and other reporters to see the facilities under the control of the Health and Human Services Department, where those children are sheltered and where they belong and where we are moving them as quickly as possible.
You notice what he did there? Don't worry, folks. My whole job right now, because you all are busy. You have your own careers, your own kids, and your own lives. My entire job is to dismantle nonsense like this and give you the takeaways quickly. Notice what he does first. Why aren't we allowed to see what's going on? Chris Wallace asked him at the southern border. Oh, no, it's all about COVID. I'll get to that in a second. But the second part's interesting. He says, don't worry. Don't worry. We're going to show you government-approved footage from our HHS facilities. Notice he doesn't say CBP facilities. We're going to show you propaganda-like material like the North Koreans do. Don't worry. Other than that, we're totally, entirely transparent, huh? What is? I mean, are we waiting for the Soviets in Pravda to show up next? So notice that that's the second part of that. He's not going to show you CBP facilities. He's going to show you government-approved footage, which defeats the entire purpose of having a press, an independent press, by the way. But notice how he uses COVID as a weapon there. It says, oh, no. We can't allow the press in because of the COVID crisis. You know, that's a fascinating assertion there. You know, the Democrats, they had no problem whatsoever when press people were embedded knee deep in the BLM and Antifa riots over the summer during the middle of the hottest portion of the pandemic, when these press people could have been injured, could have been hurt. These were very dangerous riots in many cases, and COVID was running wild. They had no problem with that. I didn't hear the Democrats speaking out on behalf of the press saying, listen, guys, ladies, here's the deal. You could potentially get COVID at these super spreader riots we have. You could be hurt. We're just looking out for you. Maybe you should stay home. I don't remember any of that. But now, all of a sudden, they're very worried about the press getting pictures of the immigration crisis they caused because they think the press could get COVID, maybe a little bit of PPE, a mask on, maybe that. No, none of that. These people are full of crap. How do you keep falling for this? How? Again, this is not directed at the conservatives listening to the show. You guys got brains. But to the far leftists, how do you keep falling for this? How do you keep getting suckered? The stupidity is really unforgivable. Now, I told you what former President Trump should do is he should now create, listen, Biden's 1 month honeymoon is over. By the way, no one gets a honeymoon anymore. He swore in, that's it. Remember, Trump swore in, he was a Russian traitor the next day, according to the liberal left. So no more honeymoons. We're done with that. First 100-day honeymoon, no, we're done with it. I said President Trump should right away create a contrast to everything Biden does to dismantle his sane immigration policies to create chaos at the border. Good for him. Statement by President Trump this weekend. Here's a screenshot from my actual phone that he released this weekend via his email list. He says, "We proudly handed the Biden administration the most secure border in history. All they had to do was keep the smooth running system on autopilot. Instead, in the span of just a few weeks, the Biden administration has turned a national triumph into a national disaster. They are in way over their heads and taking on water fast." Nice. Good for you. This is what Trump has to do from this point on. Create a contrast. As I've said, foils matter. What's a foil, right? You put a diamond on a super dark background. The diamond has more luster. It looks clearer. It looks brighter, and it looks better because it creates a contrast. We think in contrast. The way to get this country back on track, set us up for 2022 and 2024 for a potential Trump run, is for right away create a contrast every time Biden screws up, which sadly is every single day now. Now, how bad is it at the border? And this is why the media does not want to show you these pictures. Of course, we had to go to our friends at Project Veritas, James O'Keefe, the most dangerous man in America to liberal goofballs because they just don't like him because he winds up getting footage on all of them screwing up. James O'Keefe at Project Veritas has gotten a hold of some photos of how bad these CBP, not HHS, CBP facilities where illegal immigrants are processed and held, just how bad this situation is. And as I play this cut for you, I want you to imagine for a moment, for a brief moment in time, suspend disbelief, get into the multiverse and pretend you live in a universe where the media is fair, where they criticize the Trump administration for cages Barack Obama built and they had illegal immigrants in. I want you to imagine if these pictures were broadcast during the Trump administration. Check this out.
Project Veritas has obtained never-before-seen photographs of what it actually looks like inside this facility. Shocking images showing people wrapped up in what looks like metal foil, laying on the ground, their faces covered. Why won't the administration be honest about this? Why won't they show you these images?
You can watch the whole video, Project Veritas's social media accounts. You can see it, James O'Keefe's accounts as well. Ladies and gentlemen, there are people and bodies packed in, wrapped in foil blankets on the ground, packed in like sardines. Again, I'm just asking a common sense question. If this was actually happening under the Trump administration, there would be an international outcry. There would be war crimes trials at The Hague. But because it happens under Obama and the Pravda media's got to cover it up, we have to rely on people like James O'Keefe at Project Veritas to get the information out there. Now you see, I was on Fox and Friends this morning. I hope to be doing a regular Monday thing at 8 a.m. Eastern time. But I was on this morning and I said, this is the dirty little secret, folks. This is why they won't let the press in. Because of photos like that, people packed together, wrapped in aluminum foil blankets. And I think even the most insane of liberals quietly knows, gosh, this looks a lot worse than it did under the Trump administration. How do we hide that and gaslight the public? Because you lie. That's what you all do. You can't admit that Trump got the situation reasonably under control.